You didn't just walk away from abuse, you survived a spiritual assassination attempt. You weren't just manipulated, you were marked, but you made it out. That's what this moment is about. This is not just another speech. This is a mirror for the warrior in you. Because once you defeat a demonic narcissist, one who came dressed as love but acted like a curse, they won't simply disappear. Oh no, they'll respond. And if you're not prepared, you'll misread the aftermath as your failure when it's actually your freedom ringing loud. So stay with me until the very end, because I'm going to break down 6 chilling things they do once you've won. Things designed to pull you back in, question your sanity, or make you regret walking away. But you won't. Not after this, not ever again. When you walk away from a demonic narcissist, you don't just remove your presence, you remove their power. And when their power leaves with you, their fragile illusion begins to collapse. But rather than face that collapse, rather than own the destruction they caused, they retreat into the shadows of denial. One of the first and most chilling things they'll do is act like you never existed. It's not silence that cuts the deepest, it's erasure. See, a narcissist doesn't view you as a human being with a soul. They view you as an extension of themselves, a mirror designed to reflect their beauty, brilliance, and importance. The moment that mirror cracks, the moment it stops serving them, they no longer want to acknowledge it was ever on the wall. So they rewrite the script. They tell themselves and anyone else who will listen that you were just someone they talked to for a little while and an old friend they lost touch with, or a phase. They'll smile and say, "Oh yeah, I remember them," like you were nothing but a blurry chapter in a long novel. But you know the truth. You remember the long nights, the gaslighting, the fake apologies, the sweet lies and sour betrayals. You remember the push and pull, the cycles of confusion, the walking on eggshells while being blamed for breaking the floor. You remember giving everything, your heart, your time, your trust, only to have it weaponized against you. And now, in the aftermath of your strength, they pretend you're a ghost. It's not because they don't remember, it's because they do. But to admit the depth of what you shared would mean admitting the depth of what they destroyed. And narcissists can't carry shame. So instead, they carry scissors. They cut you out of photos, out of stories, out of identity. They snip you from the narrative like you were never there, like your presence was a dream they woke up from. This is psychological warfare. It's not enough for them to lose you. They want to make sure your memory is erased. They want to make you question your worth, your impact, your reality. It's not just personal, it's strategic. Because if they can act like you were forgettable, maybe you'll start to believe it. Maybe you'll shrink back into doubt. Maybe you'll second guess your decision to leave. Maybe you'll think, was it all in my head? No, it wasn't in your head. It was in your heart. You were real. Your love was real. Your confusion was real. Your heartbreak was real. Just because they're pretending you never existed doesn't mean you didn't matter. In fact, it's the opposite. They pretend because you mattered too much. Because your absence reveals the truth of their sickness, and truth is poison to the narcissistic ego. And don't be surprised when mutual friends or family start echoing their silence. Narcissists are masters of narrative. They drip feed stories to others, poisoning wells before you even have a chance to speak. Suddenly, people who once celebrated your connection with them now act like it never happened. Suddenly, your pictures together are gone, your name is never spoken, your presence becomes a taboo. That's not just cruelty, it's calculated cruelty. But let this be your revelation. When they act like you never existed, it is not a reflection of your worth. It is proof of their fear. Because if they truly forgot you, they wouldn't need to pretend. If you were nothing, they wouldn't have to erase you. But they do, desperately. They do because you're not forgettable. You were a witness to their mask slipping. You saw behind the curtain, And people like you are dangerous to people like them, not because you're vengeful, but because you carry truth. You carry memory, you carry clarity. So yes, they will pretend you never existed, but you did. You existed in every room where you held your tongue to keep the peace. You existed in every moment you believed their lies over your instincts. You existed in the nights you cried yourself to sleep wondering what you did wrong. You existed in the bravery it took to finally walk away. You existed in every ounce of healing you fought for afterward. And you exist now in freedom, in peace, in truth. They can delete the evidence, but they can't erase your evolution. Let them pretend. Let them live in the fantasy. You don't need their recognition to validate your reality. You were there. You felt it all. You survived it all. And now you're becoming everything they tried to convince you you'd never be. That's not forgetting. That's remembering. That's power. When you leave a demonic narcissist, they don't just lose your presence. They lose access to the essence that fed them, and nothing haunts them more than the light they could not dim. But instead of owning the damage they caused, instead of confronting the hollow place where your spirit once poured in, they reach for the next mask. And more often than not, that mask looks eerily like you. They start to imitate you, your words, your voice, your sense of humor, your passions, your goals. They wear you like a costume they stole from your soul. And while it may seem like flattery on the surface, make no mistake, it's manipulation in disguise. The narcissist never loved you. They loved the way you made them feel. They loved your energy because it made them feel alive. They loved your wisdom because it made them feel profound. They loved your creativity because it gave them something to copy, a blueprint to perform as their own. You were never their partner, you were their power source. So once that power is cut off, they scramble to recreate it, but since they can't recreate you, they imitate instead. It might start small. A phrase you used to say suddenly shows up in their posts. Your spiritual beliefs, once mocked or dismissed, are now part of their journey. The very things they once criticized you for, your softness, your boundaries, your dreams, now appear repackaged in their life as if they originated it. And it's not just coincidence, it's intentional, because you were never forgettable to them. You were unforgettable, and now without you, they have to fill the void, but they don't fill it with healing. They fill it with fragments of you. They perform you piece by piece, hoping no one will notice that it's stolen light trying to pass as a new dawn. Narcissists are emotional chameleons. They become whatever they need to become in order to be adored again. So they don't move on to someone new out of love. They move on to someone who can validate this performance. And often, that new person looks like you, talks like you, or shares some echo of your soul. Not because you're replaceable, but because they're desperate to prove that they still have what they lost. But what they can't replicate is the truth. You see, imitation is always hollow. It may look right, sound right, even shine right for a moment, but it doesn't feel right. Because what they're mimicking is the outside, not the internal strength it took you to become who you are. They can take your voice, but not your voice's depth. They can take your story, but not your scars. They can take your rhythm, but not your reason. They might post your quotes, use your healing language, adopt your way of thinking, but they will never embody your journey because you bled for your growth. You broke down for your transformation. You endured the storm and rebuilt brick by brick from your own pain. They watched you do it, but they never did it themselves. So now they wear your evolution like a borrowed robe, hoping it will hide the fact that they're still broken underneath. And here's the cruel twist. They may fool others. They may convince mutual friends that they've changed. They may fool social media with their polished captions and filtered healing. They may win the sympathy of new followers, lovers, or communities who don't know the truth behind the curtain, but don't let that disturb your peace. Because eventually, the mask cracks. It always does. Eventually, the weight of the lie becomes too much to carry, because when you pretend to be someone you've abused, when you try to walk in the footsteps of someone you once tried to destroy, the universe doesn't stay silent. Life exposes, time reveals, truth rises, and as you continue to rise in authenticity, they'll fall deeper into imitation. But their greatest torment will be watching you flourish as your real self while they're stuck playing pretend. So if you notice they've taken your style, your words, your way of being, don't react, don't rage. Just remember, they needed to become you to survive losing you, but you don't need to become anyone else. You're not a mask. You're not a mirror. You're the original, and nothing they copy will ever hold the sacred energy that lives in you. When you finally break free from a demonic narcissist, you take more than your presence. You take the silence that used to make them feel powerful. And in response, they do the only thing they know how to do when they lose control. They get loud, loud with lies, loud with accusations, loud with victimhood. They smear you publicly, persistently, and shamelessly. It begins quickly, almost like a switch flipped the moment you stop playing your role in their fantasy. Now suddenly, you're the villain in their story. You, the one who stayed through their storms, the one who forgave too much, loved too hard, gave too many chances, are now the monster. It doesn't matter what you actually did or didn't do. In their world, truth has no place. All that matters is the performance of innocence. And in that play, they always need someone else to wear the mask of guilt. They take their lies to family, friends, co-workers, even social media. They craft stories stitched with half-truths and outright fabrications. They say you were unstable. They say you were the narcissist. They say you used them, broke them, left them without cause. And the most disturbing part, they say it with conviction. They say it with practiced tears, dramatic pauses, and carefully curated expressions of pain, because the demonic narcissist is not just abusive, they are performative. They don't process pain, they perform it. They don't feel remorse, they fabricate victimhood. The smear campaign isn't a mistake, it's a method. It's how they protect their ego, deflect responsibility, and maintain the illusion of righteousness. But what they miss, what they can never understand, is the power of your silence. You see, while they're out in the world crafting chaos, you're not matching their volume. You're not fighting back on every platform. You're not engaging in their circus. And this confuses them. It enrages them, because in the world of the narcissist, whoever is louder wins. But in the realm of healing, whoever is quieter has already won. Your silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You're not silent because you have nothing to say. You're silent because you've learned the cost of explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You're silent because you know that speaking truth to those who thrive on lies only feeds their fire. You're silent because you finally realized that your peace is more important than your reputation. Let them lie, let them talk. Because here's the truth they can't destroy. Real ones know. The people who truly know you, the ones who've watched your integrity, felt your heart, seen how you carry yourself, they won't believe the noise. And the ones who do, let them go. Let them walk away with the narcissist. You don't need an audience that confuses drama with depth. The smear campaign is designed to bait you. It's a trap. They want you to respond so they can twist your reaction into more proof of their victim narrative. If you cry, you're unstable. If you defend yourself, you're aggressive. If you stay silent, you're guilty. No matter what you do, they will spin it to feed the lie. So don't play their game. Refuse to audition for a role you never asked to play. The irony is, your silence speaks louder than their slander ever will. Your refusal to engage says, I am no longer available for chaos. It says, you don't get to pull me back into the mess you created. It says, I will not spend my healing energy correcting someone who was committed to misunderstanding me from the start. And they feel that silence. It burns them. Because deep down, the narcissist knows they're lying, and they need your reaction to make them feel real again. They need your energy, even if it's rage, because attention, positive or negative, is their oxygen. When you stay silent, you starve the performance. You deny them the stage. You take away the spotlight, and it doesn't stop there. What the narcissist also underestimates is the way the truth ages. Lies are flashy, emotional, and fast. Truth is quiet, patient, and eternal. As time passes, inconsistencies show up. Stories fall apart. New people enter your life and see the truth for themselves. While they're still talking about you months, maybe years later, people start asking, why are they still obsessed with someone they claim to be over? And that's when it turns. People begin to question, to wonder, to observe. And the more the narcissist talks, the more the silence on your side shines like gold. Because real strength doesn't need an announcement. Real peace doesn't scream for attention. It just is. So let them smear. Let them invent new versions of you to explain why they lost you. Let them convince the world that you were the problem. Meanwhile, you'll be building, healing, growing, creating, living. You'll be investing in people who see you and protecting your peace, like the sacred temple it is. Because when it's all said and done, when the noise dies down and the dust settles, what remains is not the volume of their voice, but the evidence of your life. And the greatest clapback to a smear campaign is not a counterattack, it's evolution. Keep evolving. Your growth is the one thing they'll never be able to rewrite. When you finally leave a demonic narcissist, something strange happens. While you're in the trenches, piecing your heart back together and reclaiming your identity, they're out in the world performing grief like a well-rehearsed script. You're healing in silence. They're playing the victim on stage. This is not just manipulation, it's a performance designed for control. See, narcissists don't do accountability. They don't do reflection or growth. What they do is deflect. And what better way to deflect from their destruction than to wear the costume of the one who was destroyed? It's a role they step into effortlessly because it gives them something they crave more than anything: attention, sympathy, and power. They play the victim because it makes them look innocent. They play the victim because it keeps them from looking in the mirror and facing the truth of who they are. That kind of self-awareness would collapse the very image they've built their whole identity around. So instead of saying, I caused harm, they say, look how much I've been hurt. And the world often believes them, at least for a little while. They shed crocodile tears. They tell stories where they were loyal, giving, committed, and you were cold, ungrateful, or unstable. They might even say things like, I just don't know what happened. I gave them everything. And people, especially those who don't know the full story, will nod, comfort, console, because narcissists are masters at appearing wounded. They know the language of pain, even if they've never truly felt it. Meanwhile, you're somewhere in the background, trying to breathe again, trying to unlearn the lies they planted in your mind, trying to rebuild trust in yourself, your worth, your reality. You might even wonder, how can they move on so quickly? How can they be out there pretending while I'm still bleeding? But that's the difference. You are healing, they are performing. Healing is messy, it's lonely, it's quiet, it's not made for display. You sit with your pain, you confront it, you wrestle with the uncomfortable truths. You take accountability for the ways you abandoned yourself while loving someone who never deserved you. And that work, it doesn't make headlines, it doesn't attract applause, but it transforms you. The narcissist's victim act is not about transformation, it's about image. They care more about being seen as good than actually becoming good. They want the illusion of innocence without the effort of growth. They want the sympathy of a survivor without the scars of survival. So they skip the work, they skip the truth, and they decorate the lie. And yes, they might be convincing. To your old mutual friends, they might look like the one who's really hurting. To family members, they might say all the right things. They may cry, post vague quotes about betrayal, or write long, dramatic captions that paint themselves as broken, abandoned souls. They play the part so well, you might even begin to doubt your own memory. That's how powerful their manipulation can be. But trust this, real victims don't silence their abusers and then cry for attention. Real victims don't rewrite history to save face. Real victims don't use pain as a performance. They move through it quietly, often privately, in the dark corners of healing where the narcissist refuses to go. And while they're out there pretending, the universe is watching. Time is watching, because the truth always outlives the performance. The show may fool people for a season, but in the end, the fruit always reveals the tree. Your silence, your integrity, your evolution, they will speak louder than their performance ever could. Eventually, people start noticing patterns. They see the trail of wreckage behind the narcissist. They watch how every story they tell ends with someone else being the villain. And slowly, the performance starts to wear thin, because pretending to be a victim is exhausting when you've never truly been one. But don't waste your energy trying to expose them. Don't try to drag their truth into the light. It's not your job to make others see what they don't want to. It's your job to heal, to rise, to become everything they swore you'd never be. Let them play the victim while you become the victor, because while they're chasing attention, you're chasing peace. While they're curating their image, you're cultivating your freedom. And while they're pretending to feel, you're learning how to feel again. For real. One day, the same people who believe their story will look at you and see the truth, not because you told it louder, but because you lived it better. One of the most jarring things that happens after you leave a demonic narcissist is how quickly they try to replace you. It feels like whiplash. One minute, they're telling you they can't live without you, begging for another chance, and the next, there's someone new in the frame, smiling beside them, echoing the same love bombs they once used on you. But don't be fooled. This isn't love, this isn't healing, this isn't growth. It's panic dressed in performance. It's not about moving on, it's about maintaining control. You leaving shattered the illusion they spent so long building. You walking away exposed the cracks in their false self. And instead of sitting in that discomfort, they rush to fill the space you left behind with the nearest available person, someone who hasn't seen behind the mask yet. Narcissists don't replace you because they're over you. They replace you because they need to feel wanted. They need a new audience to play to. They need a new heart to siphon energy from. They need someone to reflect back to them the grand illusion of who they pretend to be. And the faster they move on, the more it confirms this truth. You were never loved for who you were. You were used for what you gave. That's why the replacement happens fast. It's not a relationship, it's a distraction. They choose someone new, not because that person is special, but because they are available, convenient, easily manipulated. The narcissist isn't looking for connection, they're looking for control. The new person becomes the new stage, the same script, just a different actor. And while it may look shiny on the outside, the inside is already rotting. You'll see them flaunt it everywhere, social media posts, public declarations, romantic captions. It's not for love, it's for you. It's to provoke you, to make you question your value, to make you wonder, was I really that easy to replace? But don't fall for the illusion. What they're showing you is not connection, it's mimicry. They are trying to replicate the high they once felt with you, even though they were the ones who destroyed it. It's a desperate attempt to prove to themselves and the world that they're still desirable, still wanted, still worthy. They want to prove they didn't lose. You did. And here's the harsh truth. The new person isn't getting a better version of them. They're getting the same manipulator in a new costume. The same patterns will repeat, the same lies, the same emotional roller coaster. It may start with roses and promises, but eventually it will lead to confusion and pain, just like it did with you. You, on the other hand, are healing. You are sitting in the wreckage and learning how to rebuild from the ground up. You're asking hard questions, confronting hard truths, and breaking cycles. It doesn't feel glamorous. It doesn't feel fast. But it's real and it's lasting because you're not rushing to fill the void. You're learning how to hold the void until it becomes whole. Don't measure your healing by their replacement. Don't mistake their speed for strength. Anyone can find someone new. Not everyone can face themselves. Not everyone can grow. And one day, when the mask slips again, and it always does, the new person will see the same darkness you once endured. And in that moment, you will be the one who got away, the one who survived, the one who chose freedom over fantasy. Let them run from one person to the next. Let them collect hearts like trophies. You are not a medal to be displayed. You are not a placeholder in someone else's performance. You are the main character in your own healing. You are becoming someone they can never replace, not because you're unavailable, but because you are unrepeatable. The fastest rebound can't replace the depth of a real connection. What's built on lies will always crumble. And what's built on truth, your truth, will never need to rush. So breathe, let them do what they do. While they run from themselves, you are running toward your wholeness. And that, in the end, is the kind of replacement they will never understand. After everything they put you through, the gaslighting, the manipulation, the emotional theft, you would think they'd be glad you're gone. You'd think they would finally move on, close the chapter, and let the story end. But narcissists don't close chapters. They reread them. They revisit the pages they once wrote in your blood, obsessed not with your pain, but with your power to rise from it. Because once you break free from a demonic narcissist, something shifts, not just in your environment, but in you. The person who once begged for breadcrumbs, who questioned their worth, who felt small in someone else's shadow, starts to grow, and nothing disturbs a narcissist more than watching you thrive without them. They start to watch you closely, quietly, not out of love, not out of care, but out of control. They watch to measure how far you've come. They want to see what you're doing without their influence, without their validation, without their energy. It stings them deeply when they see that your life didn't crumble in their absence, that you're not only surviving, you're expanding, that you're not looking back, you're building forward. It bruises the ego they worship. You were supposed to fall apart. That's how the story was written in their mind. You were supposed to stay broken, chasing the closure they would never give, calling them late at night in a moment of weakness. But you didn't. You chose silence. You chose self-respect. You chose to begin again without their name echoing through every chapter. So now they study you in secret. They scroll through your posts with fake accounts. They check who's commenting. They analyze your captions, trying to decipher your emotions. They lurk in your digital shadows because your glow now threatens them, and they can't admit it, not to you, not to others, not even to themselves. So they act indifferent in public, but behind closed doors, they're consumed by your evolution because your growth exposes their stagnation. Every step you take forward is a reminder that you were never the broken one, that they didn't destroy you like they said they would, that their absence became your fuel, and that kills them because narcissists live for significance. They want to believe they were the center of your story. But when you grow beyond their memory, when you start creating a life so rich, so authentic, so full of peace and purpose, they become a footnote. They try to match it, to compete with it. You'll notice them suddenly chasing goals they used to mock you for. They'll pursue healing, but only on the surface. They'll copy your spiritual language, mimic your mindset, wear your growth like a borrowed coat. But the truth doesn't lie, and what they perform, you embody. There's a reason they can't stop watching. It's not just jealousy, it's longing, a longing to have what you have now, but without the journey that shaped it. They want the peace, the love, the strength, but not the work, not the nights you cried alone, not the months you spent rebuilding trust in yourself, not the therapy, the boundaries, the discipline. They want the fruit without the root, but you earned yours, and it shows. And here's what makes it even more powerful. They'll never tell you. They won't congratulate you. They won't admit they're impressed. They'll never say, I see you shining. But they see you. They notice. They feel the distance widening. They feel themselves fading in your rearview mirror. And while you're too busy watering your soul to even think about them, they're fixated on the garden they once tried to burn. You becoming whole is the greatest revenge. But it's not revenge driven by spite, it's redemption driven by truth. Because when you grow beyond their reach, when you outshine their shadow, when you speak your truth without fear and love yourself without conditions, you win, not loudly, not arrogantly, but fully. So let them obsess. Let them watch from behind the curtains of fake profiles and whispered conversations. Let them witness the version of you that was always waiting to emerge once their chaos stopped clouding your sky. Let them see what happens when someone chooses healing over hatred, clarity over confusion, self-love over self-sacrifice. Because you're no longer who they remember, you're who you were always meant to be. And that truth, that radiance, that peace, they'll never stop watching it, but they'll never hold it again. You didn't just walk away, you rose. And in doing so, you showed the truth that narcissists can't bear. You were never theirs to destroy, only yours to rediscover. So if they're reacting, spinning, watching, mimicking, let them. That's just proof of your power, because once you've defeated darkness, it doesn't leave quietly.